Hello, dear viewers. We're in another show, New Business. Hello, Dr. Rav Michael Lyman. Hello, Igor. The previous shows, we talked about how a business would operate in the new life. Today, we want to deal with something that is a bit wider, maybe the macro level, the economics of happiness. There's such a thing called the economics of happiness. Instead of measuring things by money, we measure things by happiness. 2 days ago, they said the head of the Federal Bank of America said we have to use measurements like happiness, like using social measurements. He said perhaps macroeconomic data do not present all the suffering that citizens are going through. So I wanted to ask, are we talking about a different approach in the world that the central bank of US, or maybe it's just a lack of options with the economic tools he used up till now? That is for sure, that he doesn't have enough data to measure the situation of the average citizen, because people are not machines. It's not a bank account that you invest in, and then according to that, you say the situation is okay or not okay. People need to feel confidence, security, health, education, everything that they have. But there's people that have millions and feel lack of security, and there's some that have nothing and feel like the whole world is theirs. At the end of the day, we're in a stage where we're dependent on people, even those huge business people. If the situation goes down, then they start to feel less secure, and then they want to know more. What's happening with the population? That possibly tomorrow there'll be such situations and responses from the society, from citizens, that they won't be able to sit so quietly. And in general, the world is advancing to a direction where people are demanding more. Those occupied protesters, they're demanding equality, fair distribution, all kinds of things that the capitalistic economy didn't really take into consideration, never took into consideration. And now, out of lack of option, they're starting to calculate how a person feels. Where's equality? Where's fair distribution? Where's the average citizen, etc.? And the question is, are we going to create some kind of basket and pension? Will a person feel that he receives something from that? Maybe he'll still feel something lacking. Maybe we're giving him something that doesn't cause him to be happy or feel secure or feel joy of life. These are things that cannot be measured only by money. Isn't it surprising to hear it from the chairman of the central bank, taking it to a social direction? You'd expect to hear from him, raise the interest, lower the interest. He's trying to find the exit out of the crisis, and all of a sudden he brings this statement that takes it to a completely different place. I think he's doing it out of lack of choice. All the tools that he has are statistics. But in order to receive a good reaction, correct reaction from the population, he's being pressured by the government, of course, then he must begin to take the population's feelings into consideration. He's dependent on it completely. Maybe they're starting to feel that there's a crisis at the level of person. I don't believe that they feel it, or that they're even capable of thinking in that direction, and you know that to the extent that you don't think about it, economists. You think you can fill people up with a few more dollars and that's it. And the level of your salary isn't what determines whether a person is in a good advanced society, etc. I think it's also expressed in a person's consumption. If you see the American economy, it's all based on individual consumption. Everything that drove the economy there was personal consumption. The minute a person doesn't have work, then the consumption goes down. So in order to drive this growth again, they're encouraging people to use all kinds of measurements. Look how through the family you can get this mood. Or it's possible that he just doesn't have any other tools at this point to bring people to satisfaction. So he says, let's start filling them up, plugging them with some other type of compensation that we have. Because what we don't have, we can't give everyone work and income. So maybe some other type of benefits. But the fact that they're measuring, they're not giving a solution. In that, they need to bring a new research to see what a person really needs in his life, that a person is not an animal or a machine that you can just measure his calories and that's it. His happiness is more complex. It comes from much more data types, and if he doesn't get it from society, then maybe we need to change society. And then he'll receive everything. It's possible that everyone today would be happy with getting less salary, but an equal salary. Maybe they'd feel much better than receiving more, but in an unequal way. A person measures himself according to others. If I receive $3,000 a month, and then I get 5, and then they put me down to 4, then I feel lacking. But if they raise it from 3 to 4, I'll feel great. It's all relative, how I measure myself against others, according to the environment. There are people that don't live like in America, even the unemployed, and they're happy. Altogether, it's measured by the environment. So we need to take it into account. They figured out that there's no choice. They need to take all the data into account to bring the American population to feel satisfied from the situation. It's endangering their existence of those guys, those big guys. What you mentioned now is really happening in empirical research. Above a certain income level, a person doesn't feel an addition of happiness from having an addition of salary. They say a person measures their happiness in a subjective way. I prefer, it's all relative. I prefer making 3,000. It's all relative to what other people are making. I need to be making more than them. The question is, if we go back a bit, if we look at the crash of 29, I feel there's like a bomb, the beginning of walking towards a step. Guys, we can no longer give you the merchandise, take alternative tools. The traditional economy cannot give you anymore. I don't think traditional economy cannot give anything from this point. We won't be able to give anything. Economy that's there to destroy the other through competition, and other people should die. They won't be able to advance. This economy is destructive in its foundation. And of course, from their side, of course, they want to give the citizen as little as possible and see him happy from everything, satisfied. But we really, I feel, maybe they can possibly understand already that we need to provide social compensation, that a person will feel belonging to everyone. If he measures his happiness against others, then everyone must feel equal. Then they'll be happy. Otherwise, no. And the capitalistic economics is the opposite of that in its foundation, that everyone wants to be more than others. And we see that from being more, people are less satisfied. There's a phenomenon in the happiness. Its foundation is a product that at a certain time it's a luxury and at other times it's a necessity. Like cucumbers. Nowadays you cannot exist without it. In the short term you enjoy it, and in the long term you stop enjoying it. This addition gives you compensation inside and for a certain amount of time, and then it disappears. If I don't reach a state where I'm like everyone at least, I won't be satisfied. I won't feel that I'm happy. That's why the social change has to be significant. Sooner or later we have to get to an equal level. Otherwise there will always be the dissatisfied, and because of the crisis they're multiplying at a quantity that it's endangering society. So in the economy of happiness we say happy doesn't give us, money doesn't give us happiness. As a result of more and more research, we're seeing that there's elements that influence our happiness. For example, a research from 2008, 400 scientists got together, economists, psychiatrists, and checked what are the factors that influence a person's happiness. They did it sponsored by the UK government, and they wanted practical steps for citizens of the UK, for them to feel happy. They took 5 points, and none of them are connected to money, and they gave recommendations in 2008. Until today, the UK government has not implemented it. We wanted to go over each point and verify theoretically, not practically, why the UK will not implement them. Even if they had money and there wasn't legal problems, because they're talking about limiting all kinds of things, they need judicial permissions. Let's say everything was okay, ideological-wise, there's funding and everything. What's good about this point and what's bad about this point? Let's check the 5 points. Okay, let's go over the points. And let's say this gives people happiness. And what do we suggest the UK government do? The first is talking about social ties, the connection between people. It causes people to be happy. Be as much as possible with your family and friends. Work as less as possible. That's the point. I don't think the less that you work, but rather, and the more you be with your family, that might even cause conflict in the family. But the atmosphere in society, people connecting, programs on television, other media channels, kids that learn in a non-competitive environment in school, they get a feeling of a circular feeling of togetherness. Picnics, Hyde Park and stuff like that the English people love. Something that connects the nation, that brings them into a single culture. All the problems in France and Germany and England, all those places where there are lots of immigrants, is that no one is dealing with them. They're not obligating the person who comes to them to go through some obligatory education, that he'll feel and understand the country that he's coming into and come in as an integral part. Like everyone who is born there and grew up there. I'm not even talking about people who come with a completely different culture and religion, and even which is threatening the English way of life. So we have to work on uniting society on many levels. We need to get rid of all the gaps, the emotional gaps in society. It's a problem. I don't understand. I understand why the English government isn't implementing it, because they're not capable of using it. They themselves are, of course, causing an explosion. At this point, I want to ask, the connection that these researchers are talking about, is it the same connection as we're talking about? It's a feeling of connection, a feeling of belonging. It can be completely different in different societies, in different nations, countries, in different formats, levels, manner, but the feeling has to be there that I belong to everyone. We are one. We are one humanity. We live on one planet. We have something in common. The ecology, these problems, and we're all suffering at the end of the day from this or that. We need to show everyone that we are close. That's what a person wants to feel. And if we continue with the capitalistic approach to business, then of course we get the opposite. So practical suggestions that they said to connect people, what the government has to do is, they suggested, economists suggest switching to flexible work hours so people won't be pressured, there won't be pressure on transportation. Encourage people to invest in the community. The government has to invest in people to be more in social networks. They have to transfer this concern to the community. I would add another 20 points to that point. So let's talk about it. We want to verify. Maybe the central thing is missing. I think you're missing about concern for connection. The government can't do that. They can only talk about resources. There's not concern about the new education, about the media that has to help bring about the right environment in all their broadcasts and programs. They're not bringing other ethnic groups closer through education, culture, media channels. Also at work, they should hear things that everyone should participate in, volunteering in his local community, that they will create something with a partner in all kinds of realms. It brings people much closer together. At the very least, it's difficult. It's difficult to think that that's what happened. I know his English character. Even an English person is demanding it. And to convey to them the possibility of looking after themselves and their own environment. And finally, to encourage people to not just switch to a flexible workday, but also less. I don't think that that same pace We are simply seeing here. You don't see that there's no benefit from all this industry. But what's the final result? I don't think this crisis, at the end of the day, will show us. It needs to show us that if we're manufacturing more than we need, more than what is necessary, it's destroying us, not adding value to us. We mustn't continue to measure our success based on how many more statistics we go up year after year. This is just money that goes around and around. By the way, that's one of the presumptions. Researchers say that investing in growth causes ecology problems. Explain to me like an economist. Say I don't understand anything. Let's say I manufacture cups and cause a situation where the cups I made last year blow up. What do we get out of it? You need to work to get the new cup and you get taxed on it, etc. Where is the profit here? The profit you can understand. In what? The profit that I'm generating more. But you're taking from the same people. You're building a pyramid, financial pyramid, that at the end of the day is going to collapse. But everything works on that basis. That's the method. Until you get to total collapse. What difference does it make? Everybody's working, either in a little village or the whole world. If you keep consuming, doesn't matter whether it's cups or something else, more and more and more. Yes, the population is growing. There was growth, sort of. There was a process of growth. So I want to say, where's the growth here? That we raised the production. Where's the growth from building, from creating redundant things? Everyone needs a house, a fridge, a car. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about above that you're pushing all the time to buy. The consumer society that they're forcing you to swallow. Why is this profit? Do you think it's healthy? These statistics. Throughout the years, people enjoyed this consumption. They bought this, they bought that. They had an iPad 2, iPad 3, and iPad 4. I need to exchange it. They saw a renewal, new technology. They got pleasure from it. Today, of course, the desire has changed a bit. But throughout the years, people saw it as a pleasurable. If they weren't enjoying it, they wouldn't do it. If you wouldn't advertise, of course, it's part of the method. You build them this lacking, and they don't come with it. In some of the things, it comes naturally, you say. The marketing and advertising creates a need in them. Or there's a certain existing and we blew it up. If it comes in a fake way, a person's desire, and not naturally, that's where the bubble starts. The line is very thin. It's simple. Am I working for the sake of society or for my own sake? And I don't care how much they take from me. It's very simple. Who am I taking into consideration? Myself, to make as much as I can at any price. I can produce medicine that will destroy everyone. But the main thing is to sell. I want to because I'm an egoist. Where does it start? From the lacking. That either it's a natural lacking in a person. Yeah, he really needs a phone. But if he needs generation 5, 6, 10, it's really a question. He uses it 2 months, and he says, oh, it's really good. I can't go back to the previous one. That's exactly the point, where if it doesn't grow naturally, like an evolution, that he wants in a natural way to update myself to a new state. It comes from inside. It comes from inside. And then you advance toward it. If it comes out of your need to profit, that is destructive. And that is what brings all the problems to society and everything. How? When you blow them up with your fake lacking, artificial lacking, what percent of the cup went to advertising? 50%. 40. It depends. Every company depends on, let's say with cups it's less. But at the end of the day, you're creating something that is completely air. The main thing is that they buy from you. I don't understand why this evolution, development comes if you have a need and you develop according to need. If there was no demand by the consumer, no, there's no demand. It's an artificial demand. It's okay. No, it's not okay. In some of the cases, in almost everything, I'm telling you, we don't need 1,000 cars. We don't need 50,000 types of cheese. There's tons of things we don't need. That's what they say. It doesn't give happiness. This is what brings me to collapse. I'm comparing myself to the other because I'm comparing myself. We don't need that. In that, we're satisfying you. We're filling your egoistic desire to feel great. You're tricking us, and that's it. You're ruining the ecology, the environment, everything. For what? That's called a social approach that you don't need. Whoever doesn't need it, doesn't need it. You yourselves say that countries that don't have enough... Bhutan, Costa Rica, all those countries, do they live better in America? They feel better? They don't feel. The thing is, there's a problem with America in general. It's not for nothing that they chose Bhutan, because there's other measurements that go along with a person's happiness, to the extent that they're polluting the world. They didn't take that into account. If they would see that the U.S. is the most damaging to pollution in the world, based on measurements. I wanted to go back to the points. The first point, connection between people. The second is mutual help and solidarity. We're not talking about storage and handing out things to people, but a system with many parts where people help each other out. The moment the system works, one helps the other, and the other helps the other. And then there are places in the brain that are influenced by this feeling of security. It was recommended that they build a foundation for community life, connected together. They're going from the micro level to the macro level to the community level. Let them do it. They won't implement it. These were recommendations. We would have seen the result. But it sounds it sounds terrible. It sounds positive. Yes, of course. Why are you against it? The next day, two business owners. The next day, one kills the other. They gave like a basket of means. They talked about connecting people. How are they going to connect? They're missing education and all that stuff in media. Don't add that as like a marginal thing, as a basis for their recommendations. Let's say we added it to the first chapter. Then they're talking about mutual help, business inside the community. They can't be capitalists. the businesses themselves. They cannot be. Why am I saying storage places as an act of mutual volunteering together? These businesses, if they are capitalistic, then along with him, you make a business and make money, and I stay on the side. Is that how you're bringing harmony into the society? It's warping even worse. It's an assumption that's dressing in a lamb's skin. I don't get it. I'll say because it's based on a research. Oh, this research. They asked him what makes a person happy, and then they found out that solidarity and mutual help, he sees in front of him his neighbor's business succeeding, and he isn't. How are you going to bring him to happiness? You have to bring them something common to everyone. The feeling of equality. These people, their brains are warped, the people who wrote it. He doesn't understand these people, the researcher. I would argue with them on every point. So here our problem is that we're building it on a capitalistic level. Of course, they want to sweeten something. They want to throw them a bone for them to deal with it, that they'll feel as if they're happier. You cannot bring capitalistic elements, competitive elements into society if you're going to arrange it in an equal manner. How? That's what he wrote. The meaning is more toward common businesses in society for the sake of society only. That's the meaning, because that's what they want. That it won't be divided between you and him as working in the same business, but rather for the whole community. There's a good question about that. They see this as a way to connect people. It will bring a separation. Between you, you might be connected because you're working together and profiting, but towards others, if, say, Ophir and I open a business that's much, much cheaper for the sake of community, and outside of the community, it's much more expensive. We're talking about an ideal place where the government isn't interfering. Of course, they have no desire to do so. They'd be shooting themselves in the foot. But say we open a business and work for the sake of community. Our goal is to connect people because it's a means for building solidarity. But why would you succeed more than another company? We are building an inner system. If it's a regular business, then you're using the same conditions like all the businesses outside. Why are you better? Because we're more community in nature. What, there's no calculation? It's a business or not? But you're getting benefits. No, I'm still serving that same community. How? I'm giving them what they need for cheaper, for less. Why? I don't know if cheaper, then what? In a way that will take them into consideration. That the owner in that community, what do you like? This current situation where in the supermarket they treat us like God knows what? Sir, if you work, I'm telling you again, I don't understand you. You're talking in an unrealistic way. There's 1,000 businesses making cups. And you also opened a factory to make cups. My neighbor did it, so what? First of all, I hate him for opening that kind of business, and maybe in the community that's even worse. But we're talking about mutual help. What kind of solidarity? What connection between people? Who profits? All of us. There's no such thing. Is there an owner making money and he's selling it less? Or is the business owned by the community? I'm selling for less and it's closer to home. It's impossible because there's a factory that'll do the same thing. Why will yours be cheaper? It won't be cheaper. There's no way. You'll make cheaper than China? It's impossible. It won't happen. It can only succeed with the help of non-business mutual responsibility. The way to achieve what they talk about is not realistic. The business side of things will ruin the point itself. It has to be a community business. But why do we need to create something that exists outside? We need to create between us things that we really enjoy, that will make things easier for everyone in a wide way. Like social services, let's give ourselves extracurricular activities for kids, storage, for clothes. Maybe we'll buy things together, wholesale. Let's open our supermarket. There's no profit in anything. There's no profit to the owner. We own the supermarket. Apart from the workers that work there, maybe many even work on a voluntary basis. We may get some benefits from the country. In co-op places have that. And in that way we will reach a state where we buy merchandise cheaper. We determine the conditions, and then we sell 50% cheaper to the members of the community. Whoever has a card, the community, gets cheaper. And people can only buy a little bit. Let's see, but it has to belong to everyone. So we understand that solidarity and everything is good, but opening a business conflicts the point itself. The next is a learning experience process. It's not about learning in school, but rather activities. And they say all these things encourage people, give them a feeling of belonging, sense of belonging, etc. What they suggested from an economic standpoint is to encourage budgets, to encourage activities for community, activities to make life better, sports, culture. Correct. I think any municipality does that. And any head of a city, mayor, wants to encourage that, of course, in every neighborhood. They say things that help a person appreciate themselves more, but we don't want him to appreciate himself. We want him to appreciate society, but I think that's what they mean. They mean there's a point they're talking about the learning experience. They're talking about elderly people. All those activities, they invest a lot in the elderly and pensioners to give them the option of learning. Doesn't matter what, the fact that they'll participate. Even in this university next to us, Bar Ilan, there's thousands of old people there, and they're happy to. They are part of the student body, and they feel great about it. The next point is physical activity. They want to encourage investments in physical green areas, bike riding, creating parks, game areas. With that, there's no problem. If it's truly the right approach, if it's truly to connect people, and not, you have parks, great, just for the sake of parks. There's no shortage of parks in London. So what? But to what extent people feel it is theirs, that it's for them, that they're having all kinds of activities, social activities, and not just that I come and watch a rock band, but it will really be in a way that connects us. I'm telling you, there's no soul in all these recommendations, but let's say, okay, whatever. The last point, they're talking about viewing. allow a person to look deep inside himself, his feelings. And a practical point in his creating more spare time, but using advertising. They're saying to reduce advertising because it harms a person. It's pollution in the person's brain. I would remove advertising altogether. You think advertising drives the modern society. You think it develops society, it advances industry, etc. I think it's completely destructive. I would completely stop advertising, except for messages about a theater or something. Apart from that, nothing. No advertising. No advertising at all of products. A sign outside the store, nothing. If he needs it, he'll find it. In the papers, he'll find it. No advertising, nothing. He'll find it. You can have laws to have information. How will you know that at the end of the city they sell bikes for cheap? Maybe I won't know in the meantime, but still, I would completely cut it off. If you have 1%, then you have 2%, and the bike, you can't supervise it. No advertising whatsoever. And say there's bulletin boards about community events. Yes, that would be great. And then half of the businesses are gone, and that's good. Everything becomes calmer and better. If we look at this research and these points, they really talk to the community side of things. And the continuation, the institute that put out this research is very involved in environment, to get down, reduce our consumption levels. And here's research to promote their point of view. The recommendations are toward a community connection. What is it for you, the economics of the heart? I don't see economics of the heart. It's not economics. Economics of the heart is to fill the heart. By the way, I think the main question is there an interim state that maybe a person gradually begin to feel the same basic lacking for connection, being together. Maybe it's an interim stage. Your interim stage and mine are completely opposite. Your interim is to hold on as much as possible to what I have today, and mine is to look forward and go towards the step that I want to get to. But in the meantime, for you, it's to go 30 years backward and be in a competitive capitalistic society. 5 years would be enough. Even though 10 years ago I told you you're in a collapse and you left. And for me, interim is making a step forward that I want to be, make one step forward to where I want to be in 10 years. It's a completely different interim stage. The approach is what determines things. Toward what we are heading. If you say to me, but in the meantime, let's do this and that, no. We will not go there together. We will not be able to build anything together. It's a mistake. People who think that they can make some compromise in the middle. There's no compromise. Because with you, it's out of lack of options. They just did it for nothing. It's, of course, not possible to implement. But for you, it's like, okay, I'll sweeten their life a bit to shut them up. But for me, the middle way is different. It's to go straight from one state to another. I want to be in the new state, and still a little bit I go and reduce the capitalist economy. We need to understand, are we going towards equality, where we're all one family and we all have the same standard of living? Yes or no? I'm asking you. If no, then there's no interim and nothing. These are terms. You're saying one level, everyone living at the same level. No, that's not understood from there. Then we have no future. But they're talking about other things. The only equality will bring happiness? I'm not saying immediately, but that has to be what we're looking at. Don't tell anyone between us, just between you and me. It doesn't have to be written in the plan, the economic plan or social plan. But actually, that's where we're headed. You have no choice. In the current world, in the integral connection being revealed between people, you have no other option other than to accept it as the goal. You'll need to develop a new economy. I don't know what kind of economy it'll be. There will be no economy. There'll be relations. Why just relations? I don't see economic elements. That's the problem. That for you, economic elements are only how I squeeze the most out of everyone for my sake. And here you have a different calculation, how I bring all businesses to the direction of maximum benefit for society, and then you measure according to happiness. Happiness is the goal, and not your blown up bank account. So there's a change in the paradigm. When we looked at the economy of happiness, we didn't see where the economy was. It's not about financial satisfaction. It's about a person's needs being filled, to give him a certain standard of living, and on the other hand, to fill him, like you said, the economy of the heart. So what is the economy of the heart? A person needs to feel himself. You cannot be satisfied if everyone feels that they're equal materially, and if everyone is capable of developing above them. Because according to our bodies, we're equal. We're just like animals. We need to satisfy every person with what they need. So I need 10 cups of coffee, and you drink juice. That's your issue. Everyone takes what they need. That's necessities. Houses, phones, cars, whatever a person needs. Insurance, pension, everything. We've finished this. If we destroy all the economy that we have today, if we only create necessities, how we provide all citizens, look at England or Israel. Make a calculation. It's not hard. You have numbers, you have everything. Look how much a person needs, how much every family needs. Say 10,000 shekels a month. Can somehow exist on that, let's say. Even though it's not exactly, but let's say. So make a calculation. How do we reach it? That we all earn the same thing. How do we provide a person with satisfaction? How do we provide a person with satisfaction with all the developments beyond that? You need to develop education and culture, activities and vacation and picnics and extracurricular activities for kids. You'll have a huge industry of free time. You do it in a special plan to connect them, to give them a feeling of connection. That's your first point. For that, develop an economy, general economy. And that can be limitless. Develop whatever you want for leisure. Parks, without advertising. Everything in such a way that everyone has. But if it's in an equal manner, and a bicycle for every child. Great, we have a goal. So economy of heart is talking about the filling that a person receives. Today he receives filling from money, but then he'll feel like he equals others, first of all. And beyond that, he has a feeling of social development, that he's being filled by a good connection with the environment. Then he'll feel happy. The system is equal. It's equal. And the system, again, exists only on the condition that you're constantly working with a person, that he's learning, that he's in all these activities and workshops, that you are shaping him like dough. Is there going to be equality on the basis of what people receive? If we belong to the animate level and use this properly, say from the side of nature, do you think somebody needs to receive more? Show me a lion, an elephant. How much will he eat? He'll eat as much as he needs. Say 10 or 15 kilos of meat and leave him. He'll leave the lion. And then others will come and eat. He can't eat anymore. That's how we need to be. You are forbidden to give someone. You must provide everyone the amount that they need according to their body only. That's it. And the rest, whatever they need. So again, I'm saying it seems very simple to me. You develop necessary things that are for everyone, and you don't supply beyond that. A house and car and phones, fridge, everything they need, and clothes and everything. You do that in through storage places, and you give it to everyone. That is the economy. And beyond that, and the rest is giving people emotional compensation. That's the industry of freedom. How can we say industry of leisure? That's studies and activities and for adults and for kids, whatever you want. There's a lot in it. Yeah, the sport industry, everything. But it has to come with education, with very necessarily education through media. That is how you will change everyone in another direction. And you always show them examples. In what circle do I do it? In the neighborhood, the city, the national level. Today there's no circle that you can close off and say, let's do this in a certain circle. Every circle is connected to another circle, and until it spreads, of course, if you do it in a limited manner, less than the country, it's a problem, because you're still connected to everyone. But you can do it in a city, why not? In Israel, there's many examples. Cities that are failing, you can come and do this to them. People are getting support. They're holding them. You're not throwing them away. They're living. They're living at the necessity level. Develop above the necessity level all kinds of things in a mutual manner. They're sitting there without working. They don't know what to do with themselves. Whores, crime, all that stuff. What do you need that for? Develop an economy for that kind of little town. 20, 30,000 people. I'm trying to understand what the economy is. What kind of economy do I need for them to have activities at night? You need to make calculations. They need a community center, and that's it. No. It's very simple. You have a town with 15,000 people in the evening. 2,000 people come. You put them in the community center. You give them a show. That's why I'm saying, if we're talking at the level, the national level, or some entity that has massive economic steps, what's the difference? A country has, if I'm looking at the national budget, no. You want to do it on somebody's account. I want to go from the current state to the next state. The current state, the state of Israel, quarter of the budget goes toward paying debt and interest for all the years that they did what they did. The changes that we could make, that's what I asked before. In what circle are we making the changes? Because each circle is connected to a larger circle. To make a change in the inner circle, you make it small, relatively small. To do something at the bigger circle, there's more dilemmas and more systems that need to be taken into account. That's why I recommend take a small village and do it. Okay? But do all the businesses like that, if possible. All businesses, including the dentist and accountants. Do it with everyone, that everyone works. Everyone starts working on a voluntary basis. But voluntary is the obligation. You will educate them and cause them to agree, and I will promise them like an economic system. This village needs to exist. It needs to get into all kinds of business. It needs to buy electricity, food. That will be our subject in the next show. We'll see. Thank you. Our next show of New Life. Thank you, Igor. Thank you, Dr. Leitman. We'll see you in the next show.